Thank you, Devon. Thank you, 80s model. It's so nice to see everybody. We have a special Friday stream, and we have excellent stories to go over. Oh, this is quite the box of chocolates. I'm glad you guys like my Valentine's Day shirt. I wanted to dress up for the holiday, and I'll have another Captain America video going up later this evening. But we're going to have a little bit of an early movie math today as we take a look at the box office out of the gate for Captain America Brave New World. We have a DC story. We've got something for Dungeons and Dragons over at Netflix. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Hey, Joshua. So please keep your comments and questions to the story at hand. At the end of each section, you'll be able to ask me a question about that story. And then at the very end of the stream, as always, there'll be a 10-minute Ask Me Anything. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for gifting some memberships on Valentine's Day. That's very kind of you. All right, so here we go. Story number 1. Hold on, I uploaded a lot of pictures for today, particularly for the second 2 stories. Boop! Oh, Captain America. All right, so before we get started on, I have tons of numbers here for you to see, but it's very important for the industry that this movie do well. 2025 has been truly awful for Hollywood, and this is the only movie that's coming out that's a big deal until Snow White. We don't have the cinema score yet, Jose. Cinema scores come out Saturday morning, late, sometimes like very late Friday night, like around midnight, you might get it. But they'll be out very early. Like when you wake up on Saturday, especially if you're in the United States, then you'll see the cinema score. I'll be keeping an eye on it. I will tweet it out. But we're not going to get it until like very, very late tonight. So it's very important for this. If this movie doesn't do well, it's not only a problem for Marvel, but it's a problem for Hollywood. I don't know why Disney's the only one putting out movies, but they are. So we're going to talk about the box office for this and how it looks so far. Thank you, Michael. Hi, Michael. I'm glad you made a stream. And we have just some really interesting things to discuss. All right, so 12 million. That's where it came in last night. So this is the Thursday night numbers. This is what, it used to be that movies opened at midnight. If you wanted to see the first showings of a movie, you had to wait till midnight. Then there was the tragic shooting with The Dark Knight. I think it was The Dark Knight, right? Or The Dark Knight Rises. I think it actually was The Dark Knight Rises. And because of that, Hollywood changed to evening showtimes at a regular time on Thursday. That turned out to be so profitable that now you'll have screenings for Captain America Brave New World as early as 2 p.m. on Thursday. So it's almost another day. So they've really expanded the weekend really to 4-day, and this is almost a 5-day. Adam DeSabato, it's tough. Hollywood is in a tough space. It'll be very interesting to see what happens on once we do movie math on Sunday. So this is the money that it made Thursday night. All right, so it made $12 million. Now it's still on track to do what was predicted. 12 million puts it in the range to still have something with a 9 in front of it for the 4-day. For the 4-day. It doesn't even have to have a 9 in front of it for the 3-day. It just has to have a 9 in front of it for the 4-day. And so this is like solid enough that it could even be maybe a little higher for the 4-day. People are hoping maybe it'll be a little bit more, So it's still in okay shape not to embarrass itself. But we are finding out that it's not a runaway hit, at least not yet. I think that's interesting to me that Captain America Brave New World might not be front-loaded, Chris Kahn. It might not be very popular with hardcore fans who will show up on a Thursday night, but I think there's a chance it might do better with the general public. We're going to discuss that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, of course, Quantumania was the last Marvel movie to be released for President's Day weekend. Quantumania opened much bigger on Thursday night, 17.5. It was the introduction of Kang. Very big deal for the MCU. Also, many feel a breaking point for the MCU. That went on to do 106 for the 3-day. Technically, we're still going to call it a 3-day. It is a holiday on Monday. It's President's Day on Monday here in the United States. So it's a holiday weekend. Most people are off school and work. So 106 for the 3-day. Quantumania actually got to 120 for the 4-day. But as you can see, very popular with fans, particularly on Thursday night. Winter Soldier, though, almost 10 years ago, is about a little bit less and managed to get to 95 by the end of the weekend. Black Panther also, the reason I'm mentioning Black Panther is that it was also released February for President's Day weekend. That was huge. 25.2 Thursday night, going on to 202 for just the 3-day. Deadpool and Wolf, the first Deadpool though, this is the very first Deadpool, which actually created this release date for superhero movies. This came out, they had a really fun campaign where they played into Valentine's Day. That's on the same, 12.7. And yet over the course of the weekend, it went up to 132.4. Again, just for the 3-day. That's incredible. So here's the question. Even though Captain America Brave New World might not have been a hot movie on Thursday night, what's it going to be for Valentine's Day? I've been looking at the ticket sales. It's doing well. Particularly afternoon and evening, people are going for Valentine's Day. People want to go out for Valentine's Day. Paddington was hoping to counter-program, but I think Cap's doing extremely well. I think Paddington, the third Paddington, skews very young, and so I think that's going to do better on the weekend matinees. But I think that Valentine's Day is proving to be very good for this film. I think that it's a good date movie for the holiday, and that might do very well for it. Then, families. As I told you in my review, I thought this was a great dad movie. In fact, I would have, if I were Disney Marvel, I would have considered releasing this for Father's Day, as Superman movies typically have been. Man of Steel came out for Father's Day, and I took my dad to see Man of Steel for Father's Day. He didn't love it. He didn't like it as much as I did. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. But families, I think that Captain America Brave New World is very strong for families. I think it's great for dads and parents to take their kids to this film. I think it's more of a family film than a lot of recent Marvel movies that have come out. And I think that it's very patriotic. I think it's very, it has a very strong moral core. It's about, I think Anthony Mackie's Captain America is such an admirable person that I think that you will have maybe a lot of people, like Jordan's you're taking the grandparents. I don't know if you're recommending that, if it's you're actually doing, but I can see a lot of people wanting to go to see the movie for that reason. So it could have better Saturdays and Sundays and maybe Monday. Let's see. This might be wishful thinking, but let's see how it does. Now, another comparison I want to make it to is Mufasa. Mufasa did very poorly when it opened. As you can see, it opened with only about 35 million. But yet, it went on to 67.2, and many people feel it will end up with a 7 in front of it. That is incredible considering how poorly it opened. And that's because this movie has played week to week. And with very little drops. It's just done an extraordinary job of standing strong. And I think that there's some chance that Captain America could have that same benefit, because there's no big movie coming out for Captain America to compete. Mickey 17 to a degree, but that's very political apparently. And that's, I think, more of a niche film. You're not going to have anything until Snow White, and we don't even know how Snow White's going to perform. Snow White doesn't come out until March 21st. So you got a lot of time here where this could do well. And people might not have decided to go and see it opening weekend, but they might be like, maybe I should go. Tamed the Three Bears, as some of you have pointed out, including you, this is also Black History Month. Black History Month is having a tough time with the Trump administration. Very unfortunate to see what's being done to the. I think all these months serve a purpose. But I do think that obviously, I think that will resonate with some audiences. But I think the great thing about Cap 4 is that Cap 4 is not playing that card beyond being a movie with a black lead coming out in February. The movie's not politicized. It's not trying to make a political point. And so I hope that means, I'm very curious to see what the demographic breakdown is for this movie. I'm very curious to see who turns up. Let's see, it has Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie. Falcon is Latino. So it could have very broad appeal. So we'll see. Now, what if it does end with around a $700 million? What are the MCU comps? All right, so Doctor Strange only got to 676. I think a lot of people forget that this is Anthony Mackie's first movie, and to me, it very much plays like a character's first movie. I think people aren't, for some reason, willing to go back to the mentality of early MCU films when someone's starting a trilogy, which is unfortunate. So it's, Doctor Strange only got to 676. Look at that. The first Winter Soldier only got to 714. And that's considered an incredibly successful film for the MCU. Thor: Love and Thunder got to 760. I think we're having a little bit of a delay in a new Thor movie because of that, and I don't think Taika Waititi will return. But, still, I think Thor will eventually return. And then also the first Guardians of the Galaxy only got to 770. So I think, I think if it can have a 7 in front of it, it'll save face. I think a 6 would be hard. I think a 6 would be really difficult for the movie. And then I think this really begs the question, and I said this the other day on Wednesday when I was talking about the Rotten Tomatoes score, I don't really know if they can make solo films anymore. I think that they have a problem in that everybody wants an Avengers level movie at this point, particularly because of Disney Plus. You're seeing Marvel heroes far more than you used to, and I think it seems that I saw a lot of people saying, oh, it's no Endgame, but Endgame was supposed to be extremely unique. Nothing was supposed to be like Endgame. But it seems like, people aren't happy about that. Is Captain America Brave New World like peak Marvel, like the greatest Marvel movie ever made? No, of course not. But I think it's a good movie. I think I enjoyed it. It has a lot of heart, and I really had a nice time watching it. And I would recommend it to people, particularly for its moral core, which I think is rare in Hollywood. And a lot of, it's exactly what people have been complaining about that's been missing from Hollywood. And yet, here it is, and people aren't being receptive to it. It's like every time everybody says we should buy American, and then nobody's willing to buy American. They want to buy the cheaper stuff. Hey, Julio, 85. I think that Anthony Mackie, his Sam Wilson, is like Jimmy Stewart levels of a great guy. And that to me is incredible. So you would think, I think we all have a kind of an idea as to why some people are not supporting it. It's a little bit like Michelle Obama and RFK Jr. saying the exact same thing and getting a very different response, which I thought was I felt really bad for Michelle Obama this morning. I felt that was just horrifically unfair. But, America's gonna America. Or I guess at this point, the whole world's gonna do it. But yeah. So I'm very curious to see what this looks like. We'll have an extremely strong picture tomorrow. You won't even have to wait that long to find out how it's going to do. We'll talk about it on. For those of you who don't know about Michelle Obama, Yaya Yance, RFK Jr. He's trying to just basically take away food stamps, but his reasoning and stuff about free lunch and food stamps is that the food isn't healthy. And he says, they should be serving healthier things to the general public. And that was Michelle Obama. That was like one of her main directives as First Lady. And so she said the exact same thing, and everybody said it was none of her business. And so it's just very telling to see that reaction. Billy, I've said before I would give Cap 4 a B+. And I'll be curious to see what the cinema score is. Dan, I've heard of changes. Well, we're doing questions now for Cap. I've gotten wind of some of the changes for Cap 4, but I don't want to discuss it. I think this is very destructive to Hollywood and movie making, where, you guys can't enjoy what you got because you keep thinking about what you didn't get. Captain America 4 is a good movie. It's a solid movie. I think it's entertaining. It's very much like a family, as I said, a Disney family political thriller. And so, some things didn't come to fruition, but I don't think that means it's just as frustrating. Thanks, Billy. Rosher said, could Captain America 4 have done better with a date movie to counter-program it to make this an event weekend? Actually, no. because I think that Cap is like more of an easygoing film, I think Cap needs to be the only movie in the marketplace, particularly because it's dealing with a lot of negativity. So I think, I'm going to talk about that on Movie Math. I came up with the perfect storm of hate, unfortunately, surrounding this movie. Matt, get out of here with that. I don't know where you're even coming with that. That's just ridiculous. I see you keep asking it, so I just want to let you know that I see your question, and I'm not going to address it because I think it's ridiculous. Unless you're somehow proven to be right, because who knows these days. But I think that, I think people need to want to give Cap a chance. Cap, that's all Cap 4 needs. It just needs a chance because, as I said, I think it's a good movie. M92 says, hi, Grace. Can I enjoy Captain America 4 if I haven't watched Falcon and Winter Soldier? It became overwhelming to keep up with all the Marvel shows in recent years. Unfortunately for Marvel, yes, you do not have to have seen Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think that, one of the benefits, another thing that really helped Marvel before current times was that you wanted to watch every single thing because it was all one big story. Because they added Disney Plus to the fold, they had to make it so you didn't have to watch everything because it's too big of an ask. But now, once you start saying no to some things, you can say no to more things. And that's just a door you really don't want to open. Ezra says, Cap 4 is my grandma's first Marvel movie and she loved it. That's great. It does have surprisingly older characters in it with Carl Lumbly and Harrison Ford, and I think it would play very well with senior citizens. Dancing Dog 60 says, would Bad Boy 4's numbers be a bad thing? Let me look. I don't recall Bad Boys 4's numbers off the top of my head. One, two. They've made 5 Bad Boys? My God, they're all very good. Okay, Bad Boys 4 came out in 220. Opened with 62 and only got to 426. Those numbers would not be good at all. Hey, Roman. Let's see here. Brian says, how would you fix Rotten Tomatoes? It just seems that the critics are not reflecting the thoughts of society. I think the problem with Rotten Tomatoes is that, that's what RT stands for, the dragon. I think the problem is that they need a middle tomato. And I've said this before, because it's very difficult to have to choose between a fresh and a bad tomato. I mean, I've told you many times, I'm like, well, some people would say it's silly to say this is a fresh tomato, but I think it's too aggressive to say it's rotten. I think there should be, it's squishy, but you can eat a tomato, and everybody knows what that is. So there needs to be like a middle tomato, and I think that nuance is needed. I think, yes or no has become hard to handle the nuance of films. It's funny, yesterday I was at my parents' house for an early Valentine's Day dinner, and we were watching we had to pick a romantic comedy. We ended up picking How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. My dad, when my dad realized Matthew McConaughey was in the movie, he was so happy. He was like, oh, I love this guy. So that was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is a very good romantic comedy for men and women. I was looking through the rom-coms that they have spotlighted on Apple TV. And I was like, man, a lot of these are pretty mediocre. And my mom was like, well, a lot of movies are mediocre. It's just an excuse to go to the movies. And I really loved her saying that because I think that is a big part, and people have forgotten that. Not everything is cinema. Sometimes it's just a good time at the movies, and you got to go with friends and family and get some popcorn and go to the theater and go out for the evening and have a great time. But everybody's so cynical these days, they forget that. Let's see here. Enter Four Nuns. Says, Grace, many people online are giving the movie great word of mouth. I've seen that. Also, some ask for Disney Plus series for Isaiah. I loved Isaiah Bradley's character. I think I would really love to see him get more screen time. Let's put him on Captain America's team. I think he's great. He's still obviously very good in the field. Hey, Rachel, I like your profile pic with those cute kids in there. Elise, I do think that Marvel is dealing with a lot of hate. Jose says, do you consider Captain America 4 a 4-quadrant movie? I think it is. I think it's actually more of a 4-quadrant movie than a lot of recent Marvel films. I think it's a movie that would appeal to people who are tired of the comic bookness, who are like, Sorcerer Supreme, what the hell is that? This is a guy who's a superhero who fights alongside the U.S. military, and that's all you need to know. And he's talking to the president, who has a secret, and that's great. I think that's good. Adam says Brave New World's title and the movie overall is very fitting. It's unfortunate they came out this weekend. MCU can't realistically delay it any longer. Well, I don't know why it's unfortunate it came out this weekend. Oh, a yellow tomato. Oh, Sir Grizzle, a yellow tomato maybe is a good idea. I think that's not a bad idea at all. And Wanda's Attorney. Yeah, I saw your tweets, Wanda's Attorney. It's a great popcorn movie. It really is. You know, if you just want to have a good time and go watch a movie with some popcorn and soda, I think Captain America 4 is very strong in that regard. Yes, Matt, Catherine Hahn is in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. You know, and the night before I watched The Big Short, and Jeremy Strong is in The Big Short from Succession. It's so funny to watch some of these older movies and see actors who've worked their way up over the years. I thought that was just really funny. John says, enjoyed Captain America 4, but didn't feel like I was happy I saw it in theaters. MCU movies are recently feeling like another episode of a TV show. Well, that's another problem, John, because when you think about it, Marvel movies have never been cinematic. Like, think about Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is lucky that it came out at a time when there were no television shows, because everybody would say that Doctor Strange was very Disney Plus. You know, I think that's another problem, in that there's no differentiation between the quality of the projects. Just one's on a smaller screen and one's on a bigger screen. And so I think that's, you know, DC has a similar problem, actually, because I think that Penguin's actually quite cinematic. So you might be like, well, why do I need to watch the next DC movie in theaters? I could just go watch that when it gets on streaming, just like I did The Penguin. You got to be really careful with, they have to be very careful. You know, it used to be you were either a TV actor or a movie actor. And they might have to come up with that for content. You know, you're either a streaming show or something for streaming or for movies, you know, for the cinema. You know, like Stranger Things and Squid Game, and those are streaming franchises. And maybe that's the way it has to be. You know, your franchise lives in one place or the other. Maybe franchises can't straddle both of them, which I never thought of until right now. That's very interesting. We have solved another problem for Hollywood. These, like, our live streams are like think tanks. We're solving so many problems for Hollywood. Let's see here. Jen says, my Valentine's Day movie is Somewhere in Time. I've never heard of that. I'll have to look that up. Okay, let's go on to the next story. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Well, if you have any other questions, you can hold them till the Q&A at the end. Okay? All right, so, oh, that's right. Dancing Dog 60 says Star Trek has the same problem. I would agree. I think Star Wars has the similar problem. I think it's not good. All right, so story number 2. I'm so excited about these next 2 stories. They came together much better than you would think. All right, story number 2. Boop. All right, Clayface director. What's going on here? All right, so as you might recall, this movie is dated for September 11th, 2026. I know that that's the Friday and there's nothing Hollywood can do about it, but I'd release my movie on the 10th. I just wouldn't want to put that on my poster. I think that's a really ridiculous, sad date. I just don't want to put it on the poster. So yeah, the Beetlejuice, I think it's the same weekend that Beetlejuice came out. That's right, Mystic. September 10th at 2 p.m. Or yeah, Wednesday. They release movies on Wednesday all the time. September 9th, baby. That's what I would do. I wouldn't release it on September 11th. All right, but as you might recall, when they first announced this date, I was like, the Batman's moving. Because there's no way that Clayface comes out a month before the Batman 2. And sure enough, the Batman 2 did move. Are you saying the J.A. Bayona? Well, Sophia, I'm going by Deadline's story. So I'm going with these 2 directors. J.A. Bayona is a very interesting choice, and I think fits very well with what we're discussing. So we'll see what the situation is. But thank you for that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Sophia. So yeah, the Batman Part 2 has been moved to 2027, which is ridiculously far away. And then Clayface is going to be the Batman DC movie for 2026. I wonder when Supergirl's dated, right? I forget when that's coming off the top of my head. All right, so Mike Flanagan is, of course, writing it. So there's Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, of course, is very successful on streaming. Not so successful in the theaters. He, of course, did Doctor Sleep, which some of you, so thank you. Supergirl's June 2026. Okay, so yeah, so DC has 2 movies in 2026, Supergirl and Clayface. What? That's ridiculous. But anyway. So Mike Flanagan, he is brilliant on streaming, although I didn't really like I didn't like Fall House of Usher. I thought that was weak. I think his the Haunting shows were really good. And I also really liked Midnight Mass in particular. Midnight Mass is incredible. In fact, this actor, what's this guy's name again? He was also in The Big Short. I really like him, but I always forget his name. He should be Clayface. He'd be a great choice because you need an actor that doesn't mind not being on screen that much. Oh yeah, Hamish Linklater. Thank you. He's actually the voice of Batman in the Cape Crusader animated series. But Clayface, he's going to be a lot of clay most of the time. So he'd be great. I think he'd be a wonderful choice. Clayface, Alan Tudyk's Clayface is like the most awful thing ever, Enter for None. I'm glad you enjoy it, but I just hate that version of the character so much. Hugh Grant, yeah, Ben 10. Hugh Grant would also be phenomenal. I don't know why we're getting Clayface before Poison Ivy, Chico. I mean, if Clayface can have his powers, Poison Ivy can have hers. But Mike Flanagan is not going to direct. For some reason, he's busy doing The Exorcist. Although apparently there are rumors going around that maybe that might be a little bit, not going so great. I wouldn't be surprised. Mike Flanagan can't make a movie. But he's not going to direct. So there were 2 directors that were mentioned. Apparently one might be a mistake, and I'm glad to hear that. So the first is Jeff Wadlow, which Sophia is saying, The Hollywood Reporter says it's fake news. Hollywood Reporter says, not this guy. Thank God. Look at this. Look at these movies. I was shocked when I saw this. I was like, who would be considering this man? I mean, I'm glad he's working, but get away from my DC movie, for the love of God. So he's one choice. J.A. Bayona would be better. J.A. Bayona directed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and then also something called The Orphanage, which is really spectacular. J.A. Bayona, I think, is a strong choice. Then there's this guy, James Watkins. James Watkins is slightly better than Wadlow. James Watkins directed Speak No Evil, which was Then he did you might be like, oh, The Descent, but it's The Descent 2. So, And then The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe. But this is not great. All right, so what I want to talk about here, where's my arrow? Budget and vibe. So clearly, this is a really low budget movie, if these are the directors that they're considering. They also seem to be wanting to make this a horror movie, but like a mid-horror movie, like from like The Conjuring. And instead of this should be considered I would think this would be a DC movie. So the vibe to me is seeming like something that is not what we are looking for in terms of like a comic book movie, but it seems to me to be like more of like a standard horror film, which I don't like. Yes, CM, I would just say, when are you available, Flanagan? I don't need to rush my Clayface movie to theaters, to be honest with you. So picking a new director. Let's talk about how you would do that, because this is an interesting thing. You want to get somebody who has done something that the fans are excited about. So this is how you pick a director to level up to the big leagues, which is a DC movie. All right? So this is like pretty standard for Hollywood. Now, I'm not saying that has to happen this way 100% of the time, but this is the way it happens about 90% of the time. It's interesting that some of you are bringing up Fede Alvarez. Fede Alvarez did this exact same dance, but he got Alien. But now he made a name for himself with the Don't Breathe, Evil Dead, those remakes and stuff like that. He got the fans excited. Horror fans knew who he was, and he had name recognition. So, it was only a matter of time before he would get himself a franchise. He tried to do, that's right, CM, Zach Krieger is in the running for Resident Evil, which is very interesting. That's right. Zach Krieger, that's another really great example. Fede Alvarez tried to do Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, didn't work, but luckily he got another shot. And he got Alien, and he did a very nice job. Jordan Peele, you would think, would be playing this game, but he doesn't want to. Jordan Peele does not want to play this game for some reason. He has resisted joining a major franchise. Sam Raimi, by the way, is another great example of a director who did this. Sam Raimi was making movies like The Evil Dead, all those like low budget horror films. And then he got Spider-Man. He also made a movie called Darkman, I believe, which was before Spider-Man. But that's how he leveled up. So you want to find a director who is you don't want somebody who's like totally new, who's never worked out of film school. They need to have some kind of track record. So you want a director who the fans are excited about, who has like this little movie that people are talking about, both the press and the hardcore fans. And then you give them your big movie, and then suddenly your movie has some credibility. And then you give them like a really good backup team. Like that's when Marvel says, don't worry, we have, that's right, Davey, Peter Jackson's another example of this. This is how the machine works. Guillermo del Toro is too big and too expensive. So this is the way the system works, okay? It's very effective. It's the way it's worked for a very long time. And, I'm surprised that some of these choices aren't more inspired. Like, the choices, except for J.A. Bayona is tricky, though, because people really didn't like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I liked it, but a lot of people had a problem with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and J.A. Bayona's had a little bit of a hard time recovering from that. He recently did the Cannibal movie with the plane crash for Netflix, which I thought was a good movie, but I didn't think it was particularly well directed. So I would be a little nervous about J.A. Bayona. I'd be like, I gotta tell you, J.A., I feel you still got a little of that Fallen Kingdom stink on you. And I'd be nervous. Colin Trevorrow is another example, by the way. Made some small movies. People were excited about him. Leveled up to Jurassic movies. Ryan Coogler, same thing. People were excited about him. Got Creed. He did that himself. Then leveled up to Black Panther. So you can see it again and again and again. As I've always said, if you want to do something with your life, check out people who've walked the same path and see where the path is. So let's look at some examples. I tried to come up with people that I thought were better choices than who they seem to be considering. I'm like, but I think the problem is that James Gunn and Peter Safran are not, they're bros, they're fans. Like Peter Safran has always made like the kind of movie that would hire these other directors. Like Peter Safran doesn't hire the directors I'm about to point out. And I think that might be an issue for DC. What's with this sunset? Is that a little better? No. All right, so that might be a little bit of a better choice. So obviously a lot of us feel like the Substance's Coralie Farge would be honestly amazing. Because, obviously there are so many elements in the Substance that look like Clayface. But I think the problem is that she's like, wasn't she Oscar nominated, I think, at the end of the day? Did she actually end up getting a nom? I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think she did, but she got something else. But anyway, she was, right? Oh yeah, she is Oscar nominated. Yeah. She's too big now. She's going to want to do like her own follow-up, I think. I think that it's unlikely that she's going to, do a Clayface movie. I think she's at this point too big for it. But, maybe James Gunn should have pounced and grabbed her before she got her Oscar nomination. Although I don't know if she would have committed. That's right. She saw what happened to Chloe Zhao, Tyler. That's a good one. Although Chloe Zhao's going Buffy. That might end up working out for Chloe. All right. Longlegs Osgood Perkins, who has the Monkey coming out next weekend. By the way, I heard the Monkey was more commercial, and then I was talking to a friend of mine in the industry who said it was actually not at all commercial and was freaking nuts. So I'm curious to see how the Monkey is. That might actually blow up really big, which would be bad news for Captain America 4. But I'd be talking to Osgood Perkins. I'd be like, hey, Oz, what's up? He would be a very good choice for this if he could be commercial. Smile and Smile 2's Parker Finn. He's a very strong director. I think he's not as artistic as I maybe would like for something like this for DC, but I think he's pretty solid. Rashad, I am going to review The Monkey, but I'm going to review it, I think, on the Friday it comes out, not too far in advance. I was going to go to the early screening the other day, but I just couldn't make it because it was right smack in the middle of all my Captain America stuff. Oh, Adam saw it and says it's bananas. That's funny. The Monkey is bananas. I love that. Then I actually have to tell you the person that I would have picked would be Ty West for Maxine. That's who I would have picked to direct this. I guess this is with me only looking into this last hour. So just me doing my work, and I had to go back to find somebody. Like I was looking up, And any development executive could do this. So what I was doing was I was just looking up hot horror movies. I did 2024, 2023, and then I did 2022. And I saw Pearl, and I was like, oh yeah. Now, Maxine didn't really connect, but I saw Maxine, and I thought the artistic element of it was really strong. I think it looked like a movie. I think he dealt with the character going through a lot of crazy stuff, which is exactly what's going on with Clayface. And I just thought that he was really strong. So not everyone's going to love the idea, obviously. I know that Martine's not a big fan of him, obviously. But that's just who I would have picked. Again, it's who I would have put forward. I mean, obviously, sometimes you take the meeting doesn't work out. Sometimes, the director's not interested. Sometimes they have a vision that you can't sign off on. It doesn't always work. That's the other thing. I tweeted today about the Maya Hawke comment about Instagram followers and stuff like that. And I think a lot of times people are always looking at things from the perspective of an audience or from the perspective of an actor or talent, because that's what most people see themselves as. They imagine themselves in Hollywood as a director or a writer or an actor. No one ever thinks of themselves as a suit. All right, but the suits are the ones who make the decisions. There's a show coming up on Apple, which I can't talk about, but it is very strong. But anyway, you have to really think about the reality of the situation in terms of what you actually can do. And so if you really, as I always say, some people say I think like a producer and to be negative, but that's how I can understand why Hollywood's doing what it's doing. And so that's why these decisions are made. So you get the direct, it's an art form to some degree, it's like a skill as a producer to find the director who fits with the material, who wants to do it in a way that is tenable for that project to be successful. That's a lot of ifs, and that's why there's always a short list. You'll always have what I just made. I just made a short list. That's what that's called, a director's short list. Mine looks very different than James Gunn and Peter Safran's. Oh, that's a great question, Emilio. How does a director audition? I love that you asked that. All right, so this is how a director auditions. A lot of times a director will just have a general, like an actor does, with a studio or a producer. And that's like, I like your work. I want to work with you at some point. You pitch me some stuff, and we just kind of get to know each other. But if you have a specific project and you're looking for a director, what happens is the directors come in and they pitch you. And they pitch you on their take on the film. So you would ask, in this case, the directors to come in and sit with you and to pitch you their take on Clayface. And they would have to sit there and say what Clayface means to them and what they want Clayface to mean to the audience and how they envision the budget and how they envision the look of the film and what they plan to do VFX versus practical, who they might be thinking of terms of actors. They might say who they have a relationship with. Like somebody here might say, well, I have a relationship with this actor. I think I might be able to bring them into the project. And that's how it's done. And then, you think about who you like, who you gel with, who do you want to work with, who do you trust, who do you think is going to be good on the PR campaign, and you make a choice from there. And that's how and you have to have an agent who gets you in the room, who keeps calling up the producer and saying, I'm telling you, you got to see my client. My client really knows what they're doing. Did you see their movie? Did you see how popular they are? And then also a lot of times there are development and executives who have their favorites, who are fans themselves. And they go, I really like this person. I really want to get them in. I want to work with them on something. And sometimes that's how it works. And so that's kind of how Hollywood operates. And so I think that's important to understand. Daniel, a lot of times there isn't a script. But you can still pitch even if there is a script. There is a script in this case. It's Mike Flanagan's script. But nothing is in the script about the tone or the vision for how you're going to handle the VFX or casting, or how you're going to direct it. What's on the page has to be brought to life. How do you interpret the script? What are your favorite parts of the script? Do you get the script? You'll have directors come in and sometimes do a pitch that is just bonkers, where you're like, you're going to tank my movie. I'm glad you told me about it. And I'll also tell you that I've interviewed directors, and the directors have told me sometimes what their take on the character was, and I'm like, wow, that's a great take. However, having seen your movie, you did not deliver what you promised. So sometimes a director can give an excellent pitch, and it sounds like everything's going to go great, but then the finished product does not reflect what was in the pitch, and they're just stuck. And that's really hard. And that happens a lot too. Matt Reeves is a producer on this Ben 10, which I agree. I'm surprised that Matt Reeves would pick these types of directors. J.A. Bayona sounds more like this makes sense. J.A. Bayona sounds like not a dumb idea. That's right, Chris Kahn. The Secret Invasion showrunner was kind of one of those people where you're like, oh, that sounded pretty good. Wasn't anywhere in your finished project, but James Wan is definitely too big, especially to direct someone else's script that he's not producing himself. And also, he already did Aquaman. He already did his DC time. It really hurt his career. He's not going to do that again. Ben 10, I suspect it does connect to the Batman, because then why else would Matt Reeves be involved? But I don't know. There seems to be no rules over there. Enter Fernand says directors come and go, especially at Warner Brothers. The executives have a honeymoon period with Gunn for now, but they always put a match to all hits that they have. I don't know about that. It's really hard to be an executive. So all these jobs in Hollywood are hard. That's right, Caliban. I bet you Chloe Zhao gave an amazing pitch for Eternals. Oh, CM, the Strange Darling director would also be a good. Bring him in. Steven says you see that Coralie Farge turned down directing Black Widow to focus on making The Substance. Yes, you've brought that up before, Steven. That's a great Hollywood story. I'm glad that worked out for her. Also, I think she must have realized the script for Black Widow was weak. CM says you have to do it because you love it, at least in part. Oh, for sure. Any job. I think, it's important to love what you do. And people fall in love with all sorts of jobs. Even the ones that might at first glance might not seem that sexy. They can just really provide you with a really nice lifestyle. The Guy Tai says, I feel that one question no one is asking, what phase of the DCU is this supposed to be a part of? Why not just focus on phase 1 of the DCU right now? I don't think he's even doing phases. I mean, what did he call it? Gods and Monsters? I guess Clayface qualifies. I mean, I don't see anything there. Oh, thank you, Joyous. May the force be with you as well. All right, let's see here. Faye McDermott, look at you with the shade. Deadpool and Wolverine turned out great. Okay, all right. Let's go on to the next story. Great discussion on that one, though, guys. That was really fun. All right. So third story of the day. Hold on. This one is also interesting. Boom, baby. All right. Dungeons and Dragons. That thing's still alive. Hasbro won't give up on it, even after the 2023 movie, which a lot of us really enjoyed, but unfortunately nobody went to see. That's its box office. 205 worldwide. That is a disaster. No wonder it died. It was a really good film. I loved it. Many of you liked it. It was really fun. But it just, that box office, you just can't argue with that box office. That has been rejected by audiences. But Hasbro feels they still have something here. So they're moving forward with the show at Netflix. And I really think this is a good idea. This is very interesting to me. So Sean Levy, from not only Deadpool and Wolverine, but Stranger Things is going to be involved in this project. Now, Stranger Things is largely responsible for getting Dungeons and Dragons back into the pop culture lexicon. So from the very beginning to even Eddie being, a master telling, the story in the last version of Dungeons and Dragons. So, I think that, spinning off, having the Stranger Things connection, I think is very valuable to this project. Now, it's not just Sean Levy. Now, the other person involved in this is the showrunner from We Crashed. He wrote the pilot script for this, which was good enough to get everybody on board. I actually thought We Crashed was excellent. By Nathan Gonzalez. I thought We Crashed was incredible. I wish more people had watched it. I think it was a really good limited series, and I thought it was extremely well written. So I'd love, I would love to see something of that caliber. For this Dungeons and Dragons. Now, a little bit of a problem is that Dungeons and Dragons has become quite popular with groups like Critical Role. Critical Role, to this day, will still trend on a Friday when they have one of their episodes. I often see it, if not in the top 10, sometimes in the top 25. And they've inspired a lot of really other like groups that go around to conventions and also do like their own live streams. Freddie Prinze Jr., I believe, is in a Dungeons and Dragons group that live streams occasionally. Now, Critical Role did so well that they went on to have an animated series based on their characters, The Legend of Vox Machina, on Prime Video. And Prime Video has just renewed it for a 4th season. So it's doing very well, although, of course, there's a lower bar for animation than there is for live action in terms of whether or not they consider it successful. That's right, William Wallace. Ellie, the one who did the motion capture and the voice in the video games, is a member of Critical Role. And the people who here, like Matthew Mercer is the lead. He's like, what is it, a dungeon master? He's the dungeon master. He's very popular, and he has a very strong fan base because of that. I think they did cameo in the movie, CM. I think you're right about that. Now, here's what's interesting to me. I think that because all these other groups are already out there, I think the question is, are they going to do a more serious approach? Do you want to do something that takes the subject matter more seriously? And I think that doing something a little bit different is valuable if you pick the right thing. Now you might be like, why is He-Man in here? So He-Man, of course, they're doing the Masters of the Universe yet again. This time for Prime Video. Kevin Smith was the last to try and revive it over at Netflix as well for animation. Did not do well. But now Amazon Prime is doing a live action movie directed by Travis Knight, who did, Bumblebee and some other projects. You know, Wanda's attorney, I think that's funny you say that, because I happen to think that the live action photos from filming are incredible. I think this is amazing. So this is Nicholas Galitzine as a modern. They set it in modern times as Prince Adam. And you can see that reflected in his outfit. He looks just like Prince Adam. They actually did the pink and the white. And the sword, the He-Man sword, is incredibly well realized. I mean, that is amazing. And yes, he is much bigger. And I wonder if it will be a little camp, Tyler. But I would never have guessed that they would put He-Man in the real world. That has just totally thrown me and actually made me a little bit more interested in the project. Because I guess they feel at this point, everybody's already done it. There have been so many He-Mans at this point, and they're like rethinking it and redoing it. And they're like, why don't we put it in the real world? And so I'm just surprised at how good it looks. I mean, to me, he looks, that's right, Nacho Flores. I wonder, the Barbie treatment. Wow. And Elf. Barbie and Elf, but with He-Man. Or Enchanted. That is very interesting. That is really interesting. So, I mean, it's the perfect shade of pink. He looks good. He's got the He-Man hair. I just can't believe how good he looks. I think this is really interesting. Particularly, I think it's going to go to theaters, but I'm very interested to see what they decide to do. Oh, that's right. It's a little Thor-like, too. Is He-Man going to be like Thor? Akana says, maybe no one remembers, but part of why Dungeons & Dragons the movie died was because a lot of Dungeons & Dragons were boycotting it due to a change Hasbro was making. Oh, that's interesting, Akana. I guess they're going to have to work to win over the Dungeons & Dragons fans again. But I'm just curious to see what they decide to do with Dungeons & Dragons. How do you make it seem fresh? I mean, especially with these properties that they've tried to do again and again and again. How do you do it? How do you try it yet again and get people to still give it another look? And I think that this He-Man thing is a good example of like, you're like, oh, wait, I haven't seen this before. So maybe I should give it a chance. Does anybody have any Dungeons & Dragons questions? Faye points out that Nicholas Galitzine is an incredible comedian, if you saw the movie Bottoms. Oh, yeah, he is very funny. Yeah. I don't know if this is a comedy, Richard. I'm thinking maybe it must be. I'm glad we turned to you, Wanda's attorney. I'm only making this judgment on like one photo. Doc Hayes said the 80s He-Man was set in modern Earth and it was terrible. Well, we just can't completely abandon the IP. Dancing Dog 60 brought up the same point. Oh, J. Scott Garrity is a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. Oh, it's my pleasure to bring it up. I think it could be really interesting. I think that the Stranger Things connection is the strongest connection. I think they said they wouldn't do any Stranger Things spin-offs, but I feel like this is kind of a way to do that, interestingly. And Faye also says it needs to be comedic as well. Yeah, I would think so. Nicholas Galitzin's also an excellent singer. He was in that Cinderella movie, and he did a great job as Prince Charming. Classic Bunny Librarian says we have Dungeons & Dragons every month at the library, and it's very popular. That's great. Also, they just cast Monica Baccarin from Gotham as the sorceress, and that's like ridiculously good casting. Lisa, I'm glad you and your ex are in a good relationship still. I'm glad your situation didn't become toxic. I think that's very sweet, and I'm glad it's nice. That's nice. Oh yeah, Marina Baccarin. Sorry. Evil Lynn is I'm blanking on the name from Glow. She's married to Dave Franco. Alison Brie. Alison Brie is Evil Lynn. And Jared Leto is Skeletor. We're all just talking about He-Man. Fabio says, my boyfriend came to Madrid to see me and we're going to watch Captain America. I hope you have a great time. All right, that's awesome. Okay, we'll see how both these projects turn out. Hollywood's been trying to crack them for a very, 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 very long time. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. You can ask me anything you'd like for 10 minutes till 5:40. Lisa, Jared Leto will be in anything, but I think he's just so happy to still being offered work. Mika, I thought The Accountant too. I mean, I definitely will see it, but I think it reminded me a little bit too much of John Wick at this point. Tyler, I will review Mickey 17. I didn't get to see it yet, but I have spoken to Warner Brothers, and I will be doing it when they have, more critic screenings closer to release. Oh, Akana says, many Dungeons and Dragoners are excited at the news, but wanted to be an anthology to have real campaigns. I kind of like that idea, like the White Lotus. Like every season, it's a new group. I like that quite a bit. The Jumper, I'm really enjoying Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this season. I think it's great. I like the change, the hierarchy of power. It's changed. Jesus, what's my idea of a perfect day? It's spending it with my loved ones and doing anything. SMR Goose, for Valentine's Day, I'm going to watch Dr. Zhivago make spaghetti and meatballs, and I bought myself a little heart from William Greenberg. Let me show you what it looks like. It's fantastic. If you live anywhere near William Greenberg, if you're in New York City, their petit fours are sensational. So it's a heart-shaped petit four that looks like this. I got, mine's pink. They're very, very good. They taste like rainbow cookies inside. They're delicious. They only make them for Valentine's Day. Jose, yes, I was at my parents' house yesterday, and they made Valentine's Day pasta. So I just had a little bit because I'm having pasta this evening. CM, are you going to watch Bridget Jones? You're watching for the fourth time tonight? Is that what? Oh, you're watching it this evening. Oh, am I a Bridget Jones fan? Kind of. I might watch the new movie, but maybe like tomorrow. I want to watch something on Valentine's Day that I know is going to be good. Brendan, it's a lot of work to write comics, actually. I mean, I'm not saying never say never, of course, but I don't have any plans right now. Brian says, why the focus on Batman villains? Isn't Azrael basically DC's Daredevil? What do you mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, the focus on Batman villains? Oh, Oliver says, so excited for the White Lotus. Well, as I said, there's such a bad thing in the show later on that it's almost impossible to discuss the White Lotus because you're just like, something bad's going to happen to you in episode 5 and 6. But I will say that it's very slow. The pacing's not great. Thank you, Dancing Dog 60. But the resort is stunning. I mean, and everybody's been asking me about the new song. I thought the theme song was really weak. I, in fact, with my screeners, fast forwarded it every time because it did not have the same effect. Wes, I like your name, says, just watched Cap 4 and really enjoyed. How are they going to explain the absence of heroes like Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Ms. Marvel in New York for Thunderbolts, though? That's the problem that Kevin Feige has created for himself, you know? If this is all interconnected, it's got to all be interconnected. Danny Dumphy says, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you. I'm glad this is a t-shirt, actually. My partner and I are having a movie night with my parents tonight, and we could use a good movie recommendation. Any good family Valentine's Day movie suggestions for watching with family? That's hard. I mean, I watched How to Lose a Guy with a Family, but, you know, it was like a romantic comedy, but I think that's a good one. I mean, my family really enjoyed watching that yesterday. You know, just go on the Apple website and, you know, Apple, if you have Apple, they have a good rom-com section, and you can pick something from there. Just pick something, I think, light and fun. Ryan, thanks for joining. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. MM92 says, what is your overall favorite streaming service? I'm really liking Hulu these days. I also just really like their interface for some reason. Let's see here. The Big League Chew. I've seen 6 of the 8 episodes, and that's all they gave out for critics. You can't see more than that. Oh, your little brother Gabriel. I saw that Goonies 2 had been announced. I almost made that one of the stories, but I liked the stories that we had. William Wallace says, do you ever do full fan casting videos or lives like who I would cast for the X-Men? I did the X-Men a long time ago. It's hard, though, these days because they have to find actors that nobody has ever heard of. So it's like I'd have to like actually go on an acting search, you know? I think they're using less big stars these days and trying to find more new people. Atomsphere. I think Invincible is very good this season, but it's just more of the same. But I am enjoying it. Faye, I would love to see Miles Morales in live action. I think casting him will be one of the most crucial castings ever in Hollywood. And I really hope they get it right. Jico, I did see that new little Snow White spot, and I was surprised to see that Gal Gadot looks like she's going to have, I think, 2 songs, which really surprised me. Ricardo, I'll probably maybe do a new MCU ranking video at the end of the year, but I have to wait till all 3 movies come out, obviously. No, Twice as Bright. I haven't heard anything about Tron 3. I'm wondering when we're going to get these trailers, you know? Like, when are we going to get when's this Lilo and Stitch trailer going to show up? Jacob says, what's your favorite Spidey villain? I really liked Mysterio in the MCU. I thought that character was great. As for in the comics, I really liked Kraven, you know, Kraven's Big Hunt. I thought that was excellent. And I really like what they ended up doing with Doc Ock. Particularly when he took over Spider-Man's body. Let's see here. Doc Hayes, I'm not watching the new Spider-Man show. Peng, I am kind of excited for Doomsday. I think you will be more too after you see the video that I'm going to be putting up later today. Oh, Glubby Snot wants to know how everybody's doing on Marvel Rivals. You're at level 73? With 530 hours of playtime, I'm glad you like the game so much. You've really put a lot into it. Jose, I haven't heard anything about the Mortal Kombat movie. I'm trying to find out when the trailer's dropping. I haven't heard anything. I'm very excited to react to that, though. That's right, Gira. Stitch is huge for merch for Disney. I, in fact, sent out some Stitch gifts today for Valentine's Day to friends and loved ones. Scores, you can't do that about reading scripts and stuff because there's a liability factor in that. You know, like, then there should be therefore some level of ownership, right? If someone's giving you feedback, you know? Dancing Dog 60 says, favorite Turner Classic Movies romantic movie? I guess I would go with Dr. Zhivago because that's my choice for this evening. I'm a big classic movie fan. Adam, I haven't heard anything about the Muppets. I did see that headline about maybe another Muppets movie coming out soon. Mela says, Grace, as a gay wildlife biologist and museum curator, seeing Jonathan Bailey as a paleo curator lead in the franchise that inspired my career. Warms your heart. Wow, that's very... I would be as surprised as you that was that on the mark for you, but that's wonderful. You're definitely going to have to see that movie multiple times. Tough Luck says, Grace, what are your thoughts on Disney and Pixar's Elio moving back 1 week? It's to get away from How to Train Your Dragon, which I think is smart. Although I told you the other day, I think How to Train Your Dragon might not actually end up doing that well. But I don't know about Elio either. Elio seems like a very small movie to me. Gunnar, I did see that Mia Goth got the Odyssey. That's great for her career. You know, she was being sued potentially, and she looked like she was maybe not going to be able to break through to the next level. You know, Blade is not happening anytime soon, and so this is a really big deal for her. Mystic says, favorite non-X-Men comic book couple? Well, it'd have to be Bruce and Selena, although I'm getting awfully tired of their will they, won't they. Make up your mind. Caliban, I like Quentin Quire. I like how powerful he is. I think he's a really interesting character. Although these X-Men titles are awful. I bought a lot of them because I like the artist, but they are just awful. I was reading through them the other day, and I ended up just skimming them. I spent a lot of money on comics I don't read, which is sad. Ricardo, I'm not going to watch the BAFTAs, but I'll, of course, pay attention to who wins. Noel says, Grace, I'm glad you watched The Last of Us 2 cutscenes. What did you think of Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson's performances, Abby and Ellie? Both in critical role. I think they did an amazing job. I think that I could not be a bigger fan of The Last of Us Part 2. Oh, Jico, I'll try to see your tweet about the Disney Cinderella glass. I think I did see it briefly. And Faye, I definitely think Sam could lead the Avengers. 100%. Oh, it's 5:40. All right, let me do shout-outs because it's Valentine's Day. I want to be able to have my evening, and I still have to edit this video. Because I procrastinated this morning. I gotta stop procrastinating. Okay. Jesse says, today is Lara Croft's birthday, so I'm playing the new Tomb Raider game today. Oh, that's nice. All right, Jose's in rainy California. J. Jonah Jameson's taking his wife out for dinner. Ah, I love it. Let's see here. We're only doing shout-outs now. Have a great V-Day dinner, Wanda's attorney. You have a great Valentine's Day too, Marnique. Hi, Astronomy in Dallas, Texas. Let's see here. Senior Lullaby is playing the Monster Hunter Wilds beta and the new Yakuza demo. Oh, you're having a day. I love it. Mystic, enjoy Baby Girl. Tyler says we finally get some sun in Long Beach. I'm happy to hear that. Happy Valentine's Day to you too, Jojo. You too, Art Lover. I got to do the new badges, but I'm glad you earned a diamond. That's pretty sweet. Let's see here. Aided Buffalo says Nootropia is great. Jose is spending Valentine's Day with your cat Kit. Oh, that's lovely. I love it. Oh, look, MM92 is going to rent Nosferatu. That's a great Valentine's Day choice. You have a great Valentine's Day too, Jacob. Liam is getting, you're getting your hair cut today. Time for a redo. Oh, you're doing not just some upkeep, but a new look. I love it. Bye, Ashaman and Feliz San Valentin. Oh, I wonder what language that is. That sounds lovely. Hey, Aided Buffalo 32. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Ben 10. Bonjour, Ben 10. Rashad says trying to get ready for work, but this oh, I'm sorry you have food poisoning. That's no fun. Aubrey, Manhattan. Oh, you're in Manhattan. That's great, Aubrey. I love that. Ricardo Sanchez. Oh, that's Spanish. Thank you. CM is dog sitting tonight. That's very nice of you to help somebody out on their Valentine's Day. Hazel has 1 hour of work left to go. You can do it, Hazel. Chris says eating a ham, egg, and cheese sandwich in freezing Indianapolis. Relaxing before work later tonight. Oh, you're working on Valentine's Day. That'll be fun. You'll be around a lot of people. Let's see here. Ricardo says watching Cyndi Lauper in Belfast on Sunday. Oh, hey, Brian and Ricardo. I've seen Cyndi Lauper in concert. She does a great show. Gramos, happy Valentine's Day to you as well. Thank you. I'm glad you like my shirt. Let's see here. And Dancing Duck 60 says, I'm just making air fryer chicken and watching Turner Classic Movies. I can't think of a better day. Richard Allen is making red beans and rice. Oh, you don't have to have a date on Valentine's Day to enjoy it. You just have to love yourself and have a great evening and make yourself a nice dinner and watch a great movie or do something you really love. Watch a TV show that you love. And I think that's the niceness of it. I think Valentine's Day should just be about love in general. I don't think it needs to be about couples. Lots of love to you too, SMR Goose. I wish that everybody have a wonderful Valentine's Day, no matter what you do this evening. Oh, thank you, Gramos. That's so generous of you. Griffin says, Grace, my sister watches with me and she wishes she had you to talk about every movie. Ah, that's so sweet, Griffin. Hi, Griffin's sister. You're talking to me right now. We do get to talk about everything. Ah, what a sweet thing to say. You totally made my day. All right, well, I can't think of a better ending than that. That's just lovely. It's so nice talking to everybody. I have a great time with these live streams with you. There'll be a new video going up in a couple of hours. Then, of course, Movie Math on Sunday, even though it's a holiday weekend. And then lots of fun videos planned for the week after and live streams as well. Hey, Apricot Warrior. I like your picture there. All right, everybody.